Steady now.
Way of the Samurai's muted release in the West felt like a case of mistaken identity. Reviewers were quick to point out that expecting something like Tenchu, Acquire's famous stealth predecessors, would lead to disappointment, as if that was the measuring stick by default, despite going from ninja to samurai. However, those who took the time to scratch beneath the surface would find something of a rough gem. Essentially a non-linear samurai story, your choices and interactions shape each playthrough differently. While the concept isn't flawlessly executed, and some may grimace at the game's technical ugliness, those with patience and eagerness to try something alternative will find this to be quite memorable. Way of the Samurai takes place in 19th century Japan, close to the end of the titular lifestyles period. As the Rokkoku Pass is contested by multiple factions, you take the role of a wandering ronin who enters the village a complete stranger. The narrative is incredibly flexible here, as uncovering the deeper thread, character motivations, and sub-events depends on your actions. You may stumble across key events, such as discovering a mole within one of the groups, on your first attempt. Likewise, you may miss it entirely. The story flows really well despite potentially missing key points, taking into account factors such as who you've met, how you interact with them, and whether you duel and kill key characters. The hidden thread, which requires a near-perfect series of events to find, is very interesting, involving a clash of culture and the threat of technology wiping out the past. Playing Way of the Samurai is akin to reading a Secret Path book. The valley is divided into several areas, including 2 key mansions for factions and outer areas. Certain events will trigger with your presence, such as the opening when Suzu is kidnapped by one of the gang members. You can block them, tell them to back off, raise your sword to stop them, morbidly ask to join in, or wait for backup from a nearby local. Or you can ignore the incident and walk on. There are a myriad of moments like this, and how you approach these directs the course of the story towards one of 6 endings. So, while 45 minutes doesn't sound very long at all, it will take a ton of playthroughs to see everything. Endings and rankings reward Samurai Index points, which unlock further outfits and customization options, as well as more fighters and arenas for the secondary fighting mode. This lets you, and either the CPU or another player, face off in pure combat, which highlights the system very well. While story-driven, most of the gameplay centres around combat. Brandishing a sword, your character starts off with a basic set of strikes, a block, and parry countermove. Defeating foes and collecting certain items allows you to learn more combos, some of which are extremely potent. The type of sword also alters your playstyle, ranging from the standard balanced sword to the quicker but weaker ninja swords. Every sword can be upgraded through the smith, but conversely, spamming attacks and striking continuously will degrade and eventually break the sword completely. The system is decent enough, but it's really the momentum of counters that elevates the combat. If foes block continually, you can shift your strike to throw them off balance and create an opening. As a result, dodging sometimes works better than blocking. That being said, this experimental structure doesn't always pay off in Way of the Samurai. While the short length does stave off repetition, for the most part, the opening parts of this one can begin to grate once you witness the same unskippable cutscenes again. Some of the story paths are quite similar, and some may find it tiring witnessing the same sequences repeatedly. The other concern is the save system. Put bluntly, there's no saving during the adventure at all, really. While you can save and exit to the menu, loading said data will immediately erase it. If you happen to die, you must start the game again. Combat, especially on the 2 highest difficulties, is not exactly a cakewalk, and losing so much progress is naturally frustrating. This can be hampered further by the cinematic camera, which often captures scenery beautifully, but during combat it doesn't adjust for the rapid movement and can almost completely obscure your view. These frustrations are noticeable, and patience is needed to get the most out of the experience. The presentation isn't particularly good either. Even though it launched fairly early in the PS2's lifespan, the visuals look rough and unflattering. While the characters' faces look decent, the rest of the models appear flat and ugly. The environment is woefully drab, suffering from pop-in and lots of weird texturing. Animations are decent enough, but overall, it's an ugly game. The sound is slightly less repellent, though hardly masterful either. The music is probably the strongest part, with some catchy music such as the epic menu theme, grooving combat song, and more orchestral highlights. The voice work is non-existent, bar some odd grunts that are used scantily, and the effects feel somewhat flat and unimpressive. Way of the Samurai is undoubtedly far from flawless, but it remains one of the more distinctive efforts on the PS2. Its unique structure, malleable tale, and interesting base narrative prove compelling, and despite the combat's unsteadiness at points, the weighty counter system pays the difference. However, some gamers will likely look upon its unflattering presentation, the lack of save options, and moments of repetition with disdain. Ultimately, it's one for curious gamers, those who are happy to try something that goes against the grain, and are content to invest the necessary effort and patience required to explore all it has to offer. Oh.